Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stellavision, Stella Rising's weekly marketing update. I'm Marlia Clark, CMO. Thanks so much for joining us. Today, we kick off October, my favorite month, with one of my favorite people, Marjorie Powers, our SVP of CPG. Some of you may have heard Marjorie speak last week at the Ad Age Food and Beverage Next event. Today, she's really going to expand on that conversation with deeper and richer insights from Stella's wide-ranging survey of over 4,000 consumers on what's happening within food, beverage, and grocery shopping. As I'm sure you all know, this is a really fast-changing area. We felt it was so important to look at what's happening right now, given 2020. So we turned to our Glimmer research community for those answers, and Marjorie really has looked through with great analysis to use this information for her clients. Marjorie is also going to give us a peek into what we expect from the category as we turn that corner into 2021. Please submit questions as we go in the panel. We'll answer as many as we can, but also please reach out to either one of us anytime afterwards. We really look forward to continuing that conversation. Right now, let's get started. Welcome, Marjorie.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here with everyone today. So we can jump right in to the presentation. From a broader context perspective, before we dig into the actual research that we fielded, a quick look at what we're talking about from a grocery store perspective. Not surprisingly, grocery retailing is up. And if you think about what 2020 meant for a lot of us, is the grocery store was one of the only places we were comfortable going. So we're not entirely surprised to see that people are grocery shopping. What is really interesting to see is the staggering rate in which e-commerce in grocery shopping is growing. So, and that actually means that futurists are predicting that food and beverage will be one of the fastest, if not the fastest, growing e-com category in 2020 and into 2021. From the research that we fielded, first and foremost, what we needed to do was to validate our hypothesis around, are people still going in store and who is that person? So we were not entirely surprised that women still make up the majority of grocery shoppers. And when asked where people are predominantly shopping, 81% are answering that that's happening in store. So we can check a huge box in terms of wondering, are people still going to the grocery store? They are. We did dig into the research from a generational perspective, knowing that the habits of a boomer is much different than someone in Gen Z. So we weren't entirely surprised to see that most boomers are going to in-store, and as you trend down the generational line, they're less likely to be in store and becoming faster to adapt to digital shopping opportunities. One of the things that also popped from an overarching trend perspective was lists. So with people still going in store, and we'll see this in subsequent slides, going less frequently, lists have become something that are important and are collaborated on in the household. So while women are the ones who are still predominantly shopping, there's many family members, fathers, children, who have a stake in making that list. They've become really important too as people are going less frequently, because gone are the days where people are comfortable hopping into the store to pick up a couple of items. It is definitely a more focused and specific shopping experience. So you don't want to forget anything that you planned to purchase and know that you need later on in the week. We talked about trip frequency for a quick second a minute ago, but we did pull this into its own dedicated slide because it was something that was so super interesting to us and is something that we feel that we definitely want to be cognizant of when we talk about a grocery store being a touch point in our consumers' shopping and selection journey for CPG brands. Those shopping at mass merchandisers 5 times or more a month has declined by 47% year over year. And in grocery, that decline was 30%. Those are significant declines from people who were going to the grocery store basically once a week. Overall, 42% are reporting that they go much less frequently now. So that's something that we feel like is really important for us to not only know right now, but keep track of in the short and long term, because this will be an indicator for us if we are actually seeing a cultural or consumer shift to online grocery shopping adoption. With less trips and a more focused trip has been a significant dive into the digital atmosphere. So for us, this includes online and curbside opportunities because they are both representative of that digital shopping journey. 43% of online shoppers overall started because of the pandemic. So that is a huge chunk of people that were added to this pool and are people who are now predominantly shopping online. It's still not that significant when you think of it. When we ask this pool of people, 81% are shopping predominantly in store, 19% are shopping predominantly online. So it's a small amount of our overall shoppers, but with that significant increase due to COVID, we want to be really thoughtful as we head into the fall and winter, think about additional lockdown periods where we know that people will again turn to online. And at the end of the day, what online is giving to a lot of people is time back in their lives or an easier shopping experience. So consumers are absolutely going to lean into experiences like that. So with 91% of consumers saying that they like the online shopping experience, and knowing how many people have started online shopping predominantly this year, it's something that we know we need to keep track of and be mindful of. Oops. From a curbside and online delivery perspective, we saw that curbside was slightly more popular than delivery. I was personally pretty surprised to see this actually, because I think that a lot of people think about online shopping and think of that as a getting things delivered to your door type of experience. Curbside is something that has been prolific beyond even just grocery stores. And when you think about from a consumer perspective, making people's lives easier, curbside is something that is here to stay. And I know that we are going to see grocery stores continue to look at ways to enhance and optimize that experience. What it means from a consumer perspective is consumers are willing to drive to the grocery store then to be able to make sure that they're getting the best experience and really getting what they want from the grocery store. But with them not going in store to experience what's happening at shelf, we're still losing a potential marketing touch point for these consumers. From an online perspective, and we wanted to list all of these, so it looks like an eye chart, but what it is meant to convey, and I think it will immediately, is this is a fragmented space. There are so many ways for consumers to buy groceries online. And without seeing a clear and defined winner here, we know that it means that there's a lot of switching, there's a lot of trying new things. We're talking about non-loyalist behaviors because everyone's still trying to figure this out. It's not surprising to see Walmart and Amazon at the top of this list, but Walmart Curbside is at the top. So that's not a pure play digital delivery experience. Consumers are still driving out of their way to the Walmart to pick up their groceries. This is really important for us too when we think about working with our brands, because this is a lot for them to juggle, and understanding and balancing investments into these partners is something that will continue to be cumbersome while they figure out the services on their side. We did ask our consumers about what they think is going to happen next. And we were very surprised to see that 69% of those that we surveyed believe that another stock up is going to happen again. I like to think that everyone's approaching this fall and winter with a sense of optimism. We certainly all are in this together, but an overwhelming number of people are clearly aligned that we are looking at a potential of more lockdowns, and therefore the immediate implication of stock ups are something that we likely can't avoid. I did think it was slightly positive to see that 27% of people will not participate in stock up behaviors. This is probably due to the learning experience that we all had in terms of when we were all going through lockdown periods ourselves, watching the news, looking at lines, getting into grocery stores and grocery carts that were overflowing with things, that at the end of the day, there was a very rare moment that any of us actually went without the necessities that we need. From a regional perspective, we did find that the Northeast had the highest belief that stockpiling was going to happen again. But that was also skewed with 49% of people saying that they wouldn't take part in it. And 91% of online shoppers are going to continue to shop online even when they feel like it's safe to go back into the stores. Again, another indicator that this is a trend that's here to stay. What this all means is something that's really important for our brands as it pertains to discovery. So always, for as long as I've looked at how consumers discover new brands, the top means of discovery has been in shelf at store. So we're talking about a shopping experience that doesn't really exist anymore. A consumer who's going in, thinking more loosely about what they're going to make, looking for ideas, finding new brands, reading the back of the package. What we talked about earlier is a consumer that's going in with a list. It's a focused experience, and they definitely want to get in and get out, and they're going much less frequently. So with that, we start to look at the other ways that consumers learn about new brands. And we weren't surprised to see that it's friends and family, sampling. The fourth means is really where media opportunities come into play. Our younger generations looking to Instagram, and as you trend upwards, we're talking about television. And television, keep in mind, can oftentimes be compared with OTT and streaming opportunities as well, as a lot of that actually comes to life on people's televisions. So this is probably one of the most important implications for us and our brands, is that from a brand introduction perspective, or ways in which that we can learn about new brands, our marketing touch points need to be really thoughtfully examined and will play a critical role in terms of reaching our consumers and influencing them to try or purchase our consumers. We do have a wealth of verbatims that came out in terms of our consumers that we surveyed wanting to share about how they learn about new brands. This is something that's very important to us from a marketing and media perspective. And there's a lot of differences here in terms of people saying they look to social media, people saying they still talk to their friends. But overwhelmingly, there was a lot of verbatims like this one here, where a consumer said, a lot of new items are introduced to me online now instead of in person. So that's something that we're going to be really thoughtful of in the short term. We know that brands will need a very thoughtful message when reaching consumers, and I think we also have an opportunity to craft a message that is culturally relevant for consumers today. Knowing that we're living in a very different time, and yes, it is not a permanent time, so it's not something to hang our hat on, but it's something that we can be thoughtful about from a messaging perspective and be really meaningful when we think about where those messages come to life from a consumer journey perspective. That wraps up the majority of our research today. I'm hoping that some of you sent in questions, and if you didn't but have follow-up questions that you'd like to reach out to me with, feel free to do so anytime. My contact information is right here, and otherwise, thank you very much.
Hey, Marjorie, that was great. Always love listening to you. And we did get a bunch of questions, and I'm just going to pull out two of them right now because a lot are sort of on some similar themes. One was a little bit about TV. I know that you said in the research, TV is an important means of discovery for a lot of consumers, maybe with the exception of Gen Z. But could you talk a little bit more about the importance of TV and whether that's traditional versus connected as we move forward?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, one of the fundamental reasons why television is attributed to brand introductions or even branding overall is because it is a lean experience, it is an engaged consumer, and TV presents one of the only ways to convey an emotional and rich campaign associated brand message. So from a recall perspective, TV oftentimes gets the cred because it has meaningful impact and stronger half-life too. From the associations with TV and OTT or streaming opportunities, we know that consumers are actually starting to watch a little less TV and turning to streaming for a multitude of reasons. There's a ton of new content. TV is having trouble in that area, quite frankly, right now. And also younger consumers are able and native in terms of getting their streaming content beyond just their laptop or their phone. It is actually coming to life to them on a traditional TV experience.
I mean, I see that in my own household, for sure. And then finally, and I just think this is such a great question, and you could probably talk about it for a really long time. But with all of this in mind, what do you see as the single biggest challenge for food and beverage brands as we move forward into the end of this crazy year and then the beginning of 2021?
I think the biggest challenge will be to find a balance between your investment into e-com and or in-store opportunities, with so much emphasis being on online shopping. We want to be very thoughtful in terms of what that opportunity size actually looks like for consumers and for our brands, and understanding when we looked at that list of that highly fragmented space, you can see that it's a lot of resources, time, investment into doing all those things. And quite frankly, it can be really difficult to do all of those things really well. So I think that brands have a unique opportunity to pick a couple of things and lean into them as strongly as they can. There's little flags here, right? We see curbside popping up. There's a little bit of delivery, but then you think about, am I a fresh produce driven brand? Does delivery make sense for me? Am I a shelf stable brand? So things like that will help our brands to make those tough decisions. And I think at the end of the day, and the opportunity is to just be really thoughtful about what we're saying to consumers. We are all going through this together in the most very real way possible.
Oh, it's real.
And to connect with consumers about what that feels like, and tap into that emotion in a meaningful way, and do that through increasing your media touch points, because we're all losing a little bit of the in-store experience, is where the most ripe opportunity lies for these brands.
I think that's great. I honestly could listen to you talk about this for a long time, which is great. But we are at the end. We thank everyone so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Please, as Marjorie said, feel free to reach out directly to Marjorie, reach out to me if you have any follow-up questions. We are also doing a white paper with additional content from the survey, so please do watch for that as well. It can, I know, be really helpful to have it as a download, as well as the recording you'll get of today's show. Stellavision will be back in 2 weeks with a terrific episode featuring our Walmart partner. So we're really excited for that, especially after all Marjorie said about the importance of Walmart to consumers. You know, some people do call Walmart America's grocer, so we're very excited to have that partner join us. They will be talking about CPG as well as beauty and personal care, and just generally what they're seeing on the platform now in a very exciting time for them. So please join us for that in 2 weeks. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Marjorie, and have a great weekend.